Okay, you're live.
All right, thank you. All right, then I will call to order today's meeting of the Otonabee Region Conservation Authority at 4:01. I'll begin with our land acknowledgement, which is we respectfully acknowledge that we are on the traditional territory, sorry about that, of the Massasauga Anishinaabe. We offer our gratitude to the First People for their care for and teachings about our earth and our relations. May we honor those teachings. All right, with that, I'll look for an approval of today's agenda. Thank you, John and Gary. All in favor? So approved.
Favor.
Anybody have a disclosure of conflict of interest? Being none, we move on to delegations. We have none. I'll look for an approval of the minutes from October 19th. I get approval. Pat and Ron, all in favor. So approved. Business arising from the minutes. I haven't seen any. If anybody has any. Oh, seeing none, then we'll move on straight into our reports. Our reports for approval. Our first report is 2023-075 from the Public Information Center of the Bearsville Creek Floodplain Mapping. A complete job, but I think you're going to run with this one, are you?
I am, Mr. Chair.
All right.
The key the key element or the key point of this report is to advise the board that we are intending to schedule a PIC, a Public Information Center, in late January. Staff, you will also have an accompanied map for the Bearsville Creek watershed. So staff are continuing to work on this and on the map, and it also does need to be peer reviewed. And so we plan to do that over the month, the balance of this month and into January, and have it ready for our PIC. We are working very closely with the City of Peterborough staff, and we do acknowledge and thank them for that. And we also have received funding for this through the Flood Hazard Identification and Mapping Program. So we're happy that we're moving on. It's a very aggressive timeline. The funding ends in March of 2024, which is why we're giving notice that we are going to hold a PIC in late January. So obviously the final product, the mapping final, following that, we do some further analysis, and we do bring the mapping back for the board to review and adopt, and then we would implement in terms of our regulations.
All right, thank you. And any questions with regard to the PIC? And seeing none, then I'll look for, I guess we're just receiving this at this point. Yeah. So, Mr. Baldwin?
It's approval to carry out a PIC. So, yeah.
Oh, okay. So, the motion is resolved that this report be received.
Right.
So, does it need approval or just a receival is received?
Just to receive it, Mr. Chair. Okay. Let's do it that way.
Okay, we're clear then. Mr. Baldwin, you're good with that still? Okay. I get a seconder. Mike, thank you. All in favor?
Favor.
So received. Thank you very much. So our next report is 2023-076, 2024 annual meeting and regular board meeting dates. Take it away, Jeanette.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So as one of our annual processes, at the end of the year, we always look to setting the board meeting dates for the following year and publicizing those as, again, per the Conservation Authorities Act. And so they are included in the report, and staff are looking for approval to do so. We also are looking to have our annual general members meeting in January the 18th, and we will be looking to do that in person. And staff are just in the process of securing that location. It will be in the City of Peterborough, and we will let you know very, very quickly and shortly on that. happy to answer any questions that the board might have.
All right, any questions? Yep, Gary, go ahead.
Not a question, Mr. Chair. I just learned last night we had a holiday social organized by our CAO prior to Christmas. Unfortunately, Mr. Reyna had COVID and we had to cancel it. He told me yesterday he's hoping to have that social on January the 18th. He just told me that in passing yesterday. So depending on whether we're meeting at the regular time or later in the evening, you might have three of us kind of in and out of a meeting, or coming late, or we're ending late there. Mr. Rayner told me it was everybody on deck. It was mandatory. So anyway, I just put that out there, Jeanette. I don't know if that date is set in stone, but it may be a little bit of a conflict for the three of us from the city.
Okay, well, I guess, Jeanette, you might want to check on the conflict there. Maybe we can arrange our timing such that we can accommodate for both.
Yeah, I wish I had more confirmation. I know it involves dinner and a bit of a social, but beyond that, I don't know. He just kind of mentioned it to me yesterday in passing.
I'm sorry, Gary, were you inviting us all to that? Was that what I just heard?
I it's not my party, but if you want to join in, Ryan, I think probably the more the merrier.
It'll be surf and turf with the way the city spends money on.
Oh yeah.
Just kidding.
Trying to pull our weight, Ron.
I know.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Taylor, you got a question?
Counts for me.
I guess I think that if you have that information, unless the city CAO is willing to change the evening for the social hour, because we do have 3 city members on this board, and it's pretty important, I think, that they attend the AGM. So, Jeanette, I guess you're going to have to work with the city. If they can't change their date, it's not likely that our AGM will be scheduled to allow them to attend an event that includes dinner. So maybe we need to change the date of the AGM. Just throw that out there.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. And I think, Jeanette, I guess let's discuss with the city and figure out how we can arrange it. Maybe we'll have to change it. I don't know whether you'd have to come back to the board to change the AGM date. Would you, or would you not?
Mr. Chair, if I can be of assistance here. So perhaps we can just amend the second to be resolved, that the AGM be held in person in January, which is compliant then with our bylaws and also the Conservation Authorities Act. But not reference the specific date. That will allow me the opportunity to follow up with the city. And if I can't make it work for the 18th, then I will obviously find another date that's appropriate to do that. We are required to hold it in our first meeting, which would be in January. It doesn't say specifically when in January.
Mr. Black?
Yeah, so typically would it be at our regular time at 4 o'clock, or is it normally like an evening thing?
Mr. Chair, we haven't gotten to those that specific. We had options, but the feedback that we were receiving was that it would be more around the board meeting time as opposed to an evening event. So 4 o'clock on the 18th. But if I can have a little bit of latitude to do some problem solving, that would be great. And then just remain compliant by holding it in January at some point.
Exactly. And to Ron, I don't think we've had a normal in over 3 years now. So we're creating the new normal.
Yeah, I'll move that motion then for the dates with the change, Janet, as I mentioned.
All right. And Mr. Baldwin, you seconding, or you still have a question?
Well, I'm just going to suggest, Mr. Chair, to Jeanette. I'm not sure how public that is with other councillors even. So just Jasmer just mentioned it to me yesterday. So I would think if you reached out to him directly, that'd be the way to proceed. But I'll certainly second it, Ryan, if you need a seconder.
Okay. And just, we are live on YouTube, and the millions of people following us are now in the know.
Of course.
They're all coming.
Yeah.
No
I
problem.
guess the only other thing is we don't actually specify which of the meetings are in person and which are not. Do we want to leave that open until next year and kind of progress from that?
Mr. Chair, if I can, so there were sort of following along the pattern of what we did in 2023 here. We had a mixture of some virtually and some in person. And just thinking of some of the dates in 2024, there are some that I think would be very helpful to have in person, and where I know that there'll be substantive items that the board would like to discuss more in person. And then there will be definitely meetings where there'll be more straightforward items and wouldn't necessarily require everyone driving into a location and things. So my goal was to map this out and bring it back to the board of what meetings I would propose virtual and what meetings I would propose in person and what locations I was proposing. So
Okay, so we won't worry about that today. That'll be something you'll come back with when you have
yes, yeah,
work plan.
yeah. It just the Conservation Authorities Act does say that we need to set our schedule by the end of this calendar year, which is also what we're doing today. So I will bring back more information on those things specifically to the board at the earliest possible meeting.
Okay, that's fair enough. So I got Mr. Black and Mr. Baldwin moving it. And all in favor or any other questions?
Yep.
No, all in favor, we're good. Moving on. 2023-077 nomination committee for 2024. Or otherwise known as the Mr. Taylor report. Go ahead, Jeanette.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So again, this is one of these annual things that we do in terms of setting up a committee that does the canvassing and brings forward a slate to the annual general members meeting in terms of the chair and the vice chair for that year. So it's really over to you and the board in terms of who would like to participate on the nominating committee.
And in the past, we typically look for 3 people. Is that correct? With one name.
That's typically what has been done in the past.
How many people do we have missing today? Oh, Kevin's joined us. All right. So we will be looking for 3 names that we can put in the nominating committee. I think if anybody's been a part of it before, it's not much work. It's really just discussing who will next sit in the chair and who will next sit in the vice chair seats, and making a few calls and finding out who would like the role. And Pat, question, comment?
Just a comment. I was going to say that whoever the 3 were last year did an exceptional job, and I'll put forward that the same 3 can do it again this year.
I don't think we have them this year. I know Joe has been on that committee for a number of times, so he can comment to the workload involved if you want to, Joe.
Yeah, it's certainly not onerous. I think last time it was myself and Gary and
Vice
Mike.
chair.
Metcalf,
Vice chair
is that
Metcalf. Correct.
Metcalf, correct, yeah. So to get through this, I mean, I'm certainly willing to put my name forward for the nominating committee. But I won't arm wrestle anybody for the job if they wanted that badly.
All right, thank you, Joe. Yeah, I got 2 other people who want to sit on it. Mr. Baldwin, is that you want to speak, or you're putting your name forward?
I'd happily support Joe and be honored to work on his committee.
Oh, very good, very good. How about yourself, Pat? You good for it?
I don't think I was the 3rd person last year.
No.
No, I wasn't. I think Mike was.
Yeah, go ahead, Mike. You want to talk?
With the chair and the vice chair, it's also nominating the audit committee, are we not? No,
Not right now, no.
I thought that was nominating committee as well.
No, the nominating committee has already been set. And we
Or
did
the
that at
audit
the
committee,
annual,
sorry.
at the audit committee is at the AGM.
Gary, your hand's still up. Good. Okay. And Joe, did you have something else you want to say?
Yeah, I want to, I mean, it's a little premature here, but I'm reasonably sure, Ryan, that you have to step aside as chair. Your 2-year term is up, correct?
Yes.
So we'll
I
be certainly looking for a new chair. And I don't know if Mr. Metcalf has, as vice chair, if he has interest in the job, but I don't believe that Mr. Metcalf can be on the nominating committee and also chair. So we need to stick handle our way around that. Do you know that to be a fact, Jeanette?
Mr. Chair, there are no rules in the Act or in our governing bylaws that say a director cannot be a part of the nominating committee and be the chair or the vice chair. So it's just about people's comfort levels, but there is no rule per se that disallows that.
Okay, all right. I stand corrected then. I do know that when Dan was the CAO, there was a conversation we had that the chair could not also be a member of the nominating committee. Certainly the vice chair was okay, but not the chair. But if that's not the case, then or perhaps I just misunderstood him. And,
or perhaps it was people's comfort levels around that, right?
I'd feel more comfortable. I don't know anybody else that if Mike and I were not part of the nominating committee just because of the roles we're sitting in, but we just need one more person. And as Joe said, it's really not an onerous role by any stretch. Pat.
I'm wondering if Mr. Black might like to join the committee, Mr. Chair.
Ron?
Yeah, from the county side, I'll put my hand up. If Gary's going in from the city side, that's fine. Yeah, I'll do that.
All right, thank you. So we have our 3 members. Do we have to establish the chair now, Jeanette, or can that committee decide their own chair and come back to us with it at the time of?
I'm quite okay if we have the 3 names and the chair, they can establish who the chair is.
Okay. All right. Then I guess we'll move the resolution that the nominating committee be comprised of Gary Baldwin, Ron Black, and Joe Taylor at this time. But Mark, can I get a mover? Pat and John, boy, now you put your hands up, you two.
Yeah, they came up pretty fast now.
All right, all in favor? All right, that is moved. Thank you. All right, the next report is 2023-078, the 2024 amended fee policy and schedule. Back to you, Jeanette.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the board did see the draft fee policy and schedule at the October meeting. And so this item is back on the agenda for approval. Since that meeting, it has been posted to our website and circulated to our member municipalities, and no comments were received. There have been 3 amendments by staff, and that is in the document, that is reflected in the document that's attached to the report. So one of them is staff is recommending, so this is post October when you saw the draft, staff did further analysis, and we are recommending a small increase specifically to the Lakefield Campground seasonal and transient fees to 3.3% increase as opposed to the 2% increase that we had brought forward in October. And that's just to collate with the base compensation agreement, compensation increase in the actual agreement. And the second is just actually an editing that we should have caught earlier, but it's really just to align with the Planning Act, which specifically talks about the higher application fees if submitted within a 24-month period rather than the 1 year, which was in the October version. And the last is also specifically related to the minister's directive that all conservation authorities received yesterday. And so we had amended that schedule to incorporate the 2023 fees for planning and permitting. And with that, Mr. Chair, I have one small edit that was an oversight. It was on page 20 of the actual fee policy and schedule. There is the additional technical review, and the 2024 fee should be exactly the same as the 2023 fee, as $95 per hour and not 90, which I had it was an oversight on my behalf. So this is what staff are recommending for the fee policy for 2024, Mr. Chair, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you. So are there any questions about the fee schedule? We have seen it a couple times, but Mr. Black, go ahead. You're on mute.
All right, working on two systems here. Just one question for you, Chair. Oh my goodness, hang on. Sorry. With respect to the fee schedule for the Lakeville Campground, are there any limitations on the increases to the fee schedule for the campgrounds? There's a major infrastructure project that has to be completed there, and be very costly. And just wondering if there are limitations on what the users' fees can be for those sites.
Mr. Chair, there are no limitations. As an example, such as the minister's directive that we received yesterday to the planning and permitting fees. So the fees really, with respect to camping, are really the board's decision to make with just staff's recommendations. So it is in your purview should you wish to change that, Mr. Chair.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions? No, seeing none, then can I get approval of the amended fees and policy schedule? All right, Pat, and a seconder, Ron, all in favor? So approved. Thank you very much. All right, next report is 2023-079, approval of the 2024 operating and capital budget and apportionment. So the moment we've all been waiting for, Jeanette.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So happy to present this for the board's decision today. So this was again presented at the October board meeting. It was posted on our website and circulated to all member municipalities according to the Conservation Authorities Act. There were no comments received from any of the parties. I did conduct one presentation, and that was on November the 2nd at the city of Kawartha. And so this is the same budget that was amended at the October meeting. And so it really just has an operating levy. There is no capital levy for 2024. We are the board's recommendation in October was to use the carry forward surplus to fund the capital items. So it's just an operating levy. So that I'm happy to answer any other questions that the board might have, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you, Jeanette. Go ahead, Joe.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, we pretty much are forced to, not that we I would expect we wouldn't, but we're pretty much forced to accept this now because the city has already passed their budget. CKL has as well, so has several of the townships, and they included the levy that's in this budget. So this is, I'll just make the motion that we approve the budget.
All right, thank you, Joe. I got a seconder. Ooh,
I'll second that.
Oh, there you are, Adam.
Ron Ashmore.
Okay, Ron got it. Any further discussion? And I think this is a recorded vote, is it not?
Yes, Mr. Chair. This is as per the act again, it is a weighted recorded vote. and staff member, the manager of corporate services is going to do the roll call for the vote.
And did we have any more discussion before we do a roll call? Yes, Mike?
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to thank staff for what they've brought forward this year for us. It's very reasonable. We're working with other local conservation authorities, and it becomes a little bit more of a challenge. And as for budgeting, when they're not approving their budget until January, possibly February, it really becomes a bit difficult for municipalities to balance our budgets as well. So thank you to staff and coming in at this percent with the way things are these days. I think is very fiscally prudent for the board to bring to our municipalities. So thank you.
Well said, Mike. Thank you. Ron, I think, were you going to say something, or did you have anything to say? Okay. All right, then I'll get Denise to call for a vote if there's no other discussion. All right, it's all yours, Denise. Or Denise's wall.
Denise, your camera is on, but your mic is off.
Sorry about that. My camera's on. Let me turn my camera off. There we go. Okay. Okay, so I'm just going to follow along the way that is the order is in my spreadsheet because I have to record this because there's formulas that we have to look at. So the first one is Director Baldwin.
Yes.
Director Vassiliadis is not here. Director Duguay.
Yes.
Director Boyko.
Yes.
Director Black. Oops.
We didn't hear you, Ron.
I'm on. Yes. Can you hear me?
Yep, we got you now.
Oh, okay.
Director Wilford.
You're on mute too, Pat.
Yes.
Chair Huntley.
Yes.
Director Ashmore.
Can you hear me okay there?
Yep.
Yes, in favor. Yes.
Director Ververt. Sorry.
It's a fun last name. I wish it was Smith some days. I'm going to be a yes.
Sorry about that. Director Taylor.
Yes.
And Vice Chair Metcalf.
Yes.
All right, and the budget has passed.
Excellent. I get passed by the time I hit Ron, didn't it? Due to your formulas. But all right, you have your Christmas list there, Jeanette. Go to enjoy. All right, moving on. Then we have our report 2023-080, 2024 to 2027 draft strategic plan. Right, Jeanette?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is our first draft, and we really wanted to focus on the content and again, focusing on the mission, vision, values, and strategic priorities. In the finished product itself, there will be more to the actual document, but I wanted to bring this to the board to get your feedback and comments before we circulate it, post it on our website for some public comment, and then actually pull it together as a completed document. And so I'm happy to take any comments that you might have, the board might have, Mr. Chair. I do want to say that the staff, this is a very much, we used our own resources. We were lucky enough to include all of our staff and including some of our seasonal staff. And so that brought a really great perspective into the conversations that we had. We had facilitated groups around the office in terms of things. So this is very much developed and homegrown way, and you can see a theme. If you have seen our first strategic plan, our inaugural strategic plan, there's a feeling that this is also a bit of a departure from that, but also in a very good way. And so staff were very excited about the opportunities, specifically also around the strategic priorities. So I welcome your feedback, your input, your changes, and your edits, and in terms of things, Mr. Chair.
Well, thank you, Jeanette, and thank you to staff who've put this together. It looks like the content is great. I know it's still in draft form, and I think if anybody is, taking the time to look at the last year's strategic plan or the last strategic plan, I mean, it's put in a wonderful way to digest, and it's very, very picturesque, I guess is the right word, laid out very, very well. Like the graphic designs that accompany it are really well done, and it's direct to the point. And it worked. So with the new strategic planning coming out, please take your time and review the content that is in this report, and provide any feedback to Jeanette. I don't know whether, Jeanette, you've specified a time frame that you'd like your feedback by.
Mr. Chair, it would be wonderful if directors had any that they wanted to share now, and or the goal would be that we would take the month of January to be able to gather some public feedback. So if directors want to send that to me in the next couple of weeks, that would be great as well. And the goal would be that we would bring back a final draft for the board in that first quarter of next year.
Perfect.
So,
thank you.
so you will have another opportunity to provide input into this document before it becomes final.
Excellent. All right. So thank you. Joe, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Certainly my comments I hope are taken positive. I like the fact that it's only 2 pages. I don't think strat plans should be documents that go on and on and on. The mission and the vision statement is good. There's one, and I advised Jeanette about this earlier. There's one word on the section under water, which is at the very first paragraph. There's one word that says interconnectedness. And I just thought maybe we could edit that. I mean, there's a number of words you can put in there that just are a little easier to say. You can just say the awareness of the connection between humans and watershed, or the relation, or the association. There's lots of words you can use besides interconnectedness. And I'd recommend that we find something that's a little easier to say. I actually had to look up to see if that was actually a word, and it is. But it's not one you see very often.
Well, get out the thesaurus then.
I'll leave that with staff. Thank you.
Oh, fair comment. Fair comment. Mr. Baldwin?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I was just going to kind of echo what Joe said. I think it's really positively written. It's pretty succinct and easy to understand. And in each of those strategic priorities, there are 3 specific goals. And I like the fact that it's done that way. And you'll be able to determine those key performance indicators very quickly just by looking at that. So I really like the way it's done, Jeanette, and compliments to you and your staff.
Absolutely. Thank you. All right. Other than interconnectedness, is there any other feedback from anybody today? And if not, then please connect with Jeanette before sometime in January. Oh, Adam, go ahead.
Certainly. I think my comments are just going to echo those comments previously made. Fantastic job to Jeanette and staff. So with that, I'd like to make a motion to receive.
Thank you very much. All right. I get a seconder. All right, Mike, thank you. All in favor? Perfect. All right. So we have received, I believe, our first draft of the strategic plan. You come back sometime in the first quarter. Excellent. Great work so far. Can't wait to see the next version. Where's that move? It moves us into reports of information. So 2023-081 CAO monthly activity report. Other than strategically planning interconnectedness, what have you been up to?
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. So have had actually a very busy couple of weeks and quite enjoyable. So really do want to reference our new website that I had also sent out a note. And so we're going to be taking the next couple of weeks to go through it to make sure things are functioning. I can say that staff are very excited about this. It was very much a team effort right through the whole staff, and they're enjoying the forms function. We've processed a few things already, so much more simpler and efficient that way. And we will do an official launch in the new year. I also do want to highlight Giving Tuesday, and we have seen a great success with our launch of our capital campaign, 100 for Haroldtown. And so we continue to receive donations for that. And verbally, I just wanted to provide one other update. It happened subsequent to the report being published. And so on Tuesday of this week, we did receive via social media post that the Peterborough Nordic Club had announced that they are moving their location, their operations, to the Lift Lock Golf and Country Club starting this season. So they, in the past, have laid down the tracks on Jackson Creek Trail for people to enjoy, and they had made the decision to move their operations. So I just really want to make sure that the community understands that they can still continue to enjoy the Jackson Creek Trail in the winter with all the various activities, including cross-country skiing. They won't just see those beautifully laid tracks up there come with the bigger snowfall. So I'm happy to answer any other questions that the board may have, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you, Jeanette, for that update. Any questions, thoughts? All right, seeing none, I gotta get a receiver of the CAO report. Mr. Boyko and Mr. Taylor, all in favor?
Favor.
Thanks. Got it. All right, next is correspondence and media coverage. There's a fair number of stuff in there. Does anybody want to draw attention to any of it or bring anything forward?
And Mr. Chair, I just wanted to add, we amended to include the minister's directive that we received on Tuesday.
Right. Okay. Seeing none, can I, oh, sorry, Ron, were you gonna comment or move?
No, just a quick question through you, Chair Huntley. With regard to the capital campaign for the Haroldtown project, what's the time frame for the campaign, or is it until we reach goal, or and how did Tuesday go for it?
So Mr. Chair, we this is a capital campaign that we're going to take over 2 years more, and we have directed the fundraising to a number of components of the actual capital project. We also have applied for some grants to help supplement that, which we will be hopefully hearing in the end of this year and also into 2024. So it's a combination of externally funded funds to help do this capital project. So it'll be a phased approach over the 2 years, really, to the answer to your question. I don't really, your second part was how well did we actually do? Well, they're still coming in. So it's and like what we saw on Jackson Creek Trail when we did our capital fundraising, we saw it again over 2 years, and we saw the community just really be generous towards the capital fundraising. We raised over those 2 years 80,000 approximately, which is a lot of money, and so we've just had a really warm reception to our capital project of Haroldtown. We look to also engage our partners, our community partners in this. There's a lot of partners that use Haroldtown, so we'll want to be able to do that. And there might be some other surprise opportunities coming down 2024 in terms of what we can do for the capital fundraising.
Great. So this is internally run. You're not using an external capital fundraising company, right?
It's
That's
all
that's
staff power.
that's tremendous. Absolutely. So congratulate staff and yourself for taking this on, and hopefully recipients are generous of the campaign.
Yes,
Thank
yes, thank you.
Excellent. All right, so I think we're into media coverage. So I was looking for somebody to move receiving the media coverage, unless anybody had any part of it they wanted to bring forward. Kevin, you good? And Ron. So all in favor of receiving?
Yep.
So received.
Favor.
Thank you very much. Moves us to open forum. Anybody want to bring anything up? Go ahead, Joe.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is the last meeting of 2023, and I believe also the end of our first year as a collective board. So I certainly want to thank you, Mr. Chair, for helping us get through this first year. You did a very effective job of chairing our meetings and representing our board, and I wanted to thank staff. It's been a pleasure working with staff. Jeanette, you've done a great job keeping things organized and having the information for us that we need to try to make the informed decisions that we do make. So thank you to everyone for their input. I also want to say, Jeanette, because you asked earlier about the meeting format for next year. I thought the mix of some virtual and a few in-person meetings worked really well. And I think it's fairly consistent around the board that has worked well, and I'm hoping we can continue with that in 2024. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you for those kind words, Joe. And yeah, this is probably my last board meeting that I will be chairing. So, anything else before we move on? All right, then. Sorry, go ahead.
I'd like to say thanks. Yeah, it's Ron here. I'd like to say thanks there, Chair Huntley and CAO Janet, and my colleagues there. And I really enjoyed this first year. And I do also like the hybrid system of meetings. Like, I really enjoyed going to the meeting that we had in Hiawatha. That was a really incredible meeting there. I think it was in June we had that one. Was it June? And yeah, and it was really good. And hopefully we'll get together next year. Well, we will have hybrid meetings. I guess they call it hybrid, mixture of in-person and Zoom meetings. So best wishes for Christmas and New Year's to everybody. Thanks.
Thank you. Anybody else? All right, and moving on. There's no closed session tonight. Our future meeting, we have a AGM in January. I'll leave it at that. And then I'll be looking for an adjournment. And Adam, all in favor of adjourning? Again, so thank you very much, everybody, and happy holidays.